Imagine waking up on a frigid night, your breath visible, your home an icebox because the heating system's been sabotaged, and the culprit is your husband of 30 years. I'm Helen. And when I discovered Edward's betrayal, my backup heater saved me from the cold. But that was just the start. An affair and a sinister plot to drive me out shattered our family. Join me as I unravel a story of deceit, revenge, and the strength to fight back. This tale of betrayal in the heart of winter will grip you, and you won't believe what unfolds next. I'm 62, a retired bank teller living in a small town in Minnesota. My home is a cozy 2-story house with a snow-dusted porch, a fireplace, and a kitchen that's hosted countless family dinners. This is where I've poured my heart into meals, filling the air with the scent of fresh bread and love. My husband, Edward, 64, is a retired mechanical engineer, always the dependable fix-it man, or so I thought. Our son, Michael, 35, is a thoughtful architect who lives nearby, the pride of our lives. Together, we've been a family, bound by warmth in this quiet, snow-covered corner of the world. Edward and I have shared 30 years of marriage, weathering life's storms. But lately, cracks have appeared. My best friend, Linda, 60, a retired journalist with a nose for trouble, is a regular at our table, her sharp insights keeping me grounded. Then there's Nancy, 40, a former colleague of Edward's, who's recently reappeared in his life, joining our dinners at his insistence, her presence too familiar for comfort. I've always been the one holding us together, smoothing tensions. But this winter of 2023, the chill in our home wasn't just from the Minnesota cold. It started with Edward's behavior. He'd grown distant, staying late at supposed community meetings, taking hushed phone calls in the garage. His tools, once neatly organized, were scattered, and he'd snap when I asked about his day. Michael seemed oblivious, praising Edward's dedication. But Linda was the first to voice concern, whispering over coffee at her house that Edward was hiding something. I brushed it off, not wanting to suspect the man I'd loved for decades. But doubts grew when I started shivering in our house, the heating system failing on the coldest nights, despite Edward's claims of fixing it. Then came the night that changed everything. I woke at midnight, the house freezing, my fingers numb, the thermostat dead. Edward was asleep, unbothered, which struck me as odd. I grabbed my backup heater, a small electric unit I'd kept in the closet, and plugged it in, saving myself from the biting cold. The next morning, I called a repairman, who inspected the system and delivered a bombshell. The heating unit had been deliberately damaged, wires cut with precision, not a random failure. My heart sank. Edward, with his engineering skills, was the only one with the knowledge and access to do this. That day, I couldn't shake the suspicion. Why would Edward sabotage our heat? Leaving me to suffer in the cold, I checked his phone while he was out, my hands trembling with guilt. What I found broke my heart. Flirty texts between Edward and Nancy, filled with intimate plans and cryptic references to starting fresh. My husband was cheating, and there were hints of a plan to push me out, maybe to force me from our home. I thought of the damaged heater, the freezing night, and Edward's calm sleep. Was he trying to harm me or drive me away to hide his affair? The idea was devastating, but the evidence was clear. I sat in my dark kitchen, the house silent except for the hum of the backup heater, memories of Edward fixing our home. Laughing with Michael, clashed with his recent secrecy, tearing at my soul. How could I confront him, knowing it might destroy our family? My home, my sanctuary, felt like a trap. My son, the light of my life, was at risk of being caught in the crossfire. Why would Edward betray me? Was it just to protect his affair with Nancy? Or was there more, something tied to our home, our savings? I didn't have all the answers, but I knew I couldn't stay silent. A dangerous truth was unfolding, and I had to face it. I began forming a plan, leaning on Linda's sharp instincts and my own resolve as a wife and mother. the damaged heater, the texts, and the repairman's report were just the beginning. I needed proof, not just for me but for Michael, to show him the truth without breaking his trust in his father. My kitchen, where I'd nurtured my family, had become a battlefield, and I was ready to fight for what was mine, no matter the cost. This wasn't just about surviving the cold, it was about saving the family I'd built from the lies threatening to tear it apart. I'd faced challenges before, from financial struggles to personal loss, and I wasn't about to back down now. The truth was out there, waiting to be uncovered. And I was determined to find it, to hold Edward accountable, and to protect the love we'd shared for so long. Thanks for joining me this far. Let us know where you're watching from today. And if you're new here, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to join our growing community. This story's just getting started, and you won't want to miss what's next. Stick around, because it's about to get intense. The repairman's words echoed in my mind, confirming the heating system was sabotaged. A deliberate act by Edward, my husband of 30 years. Those flirty texts between him and Nancy, hinting at starting fresh, weren't just proof of an affair. They suggested a plot to drive me out, or worse. I couldn't let this betrayal destroy Michael, our son, or our family's foundation. Welcome back. Everyone, I'm Helen Carter, and if you're following my story from Minnesota, you know I'm unraveling a deception that began with a freezing night in 2023. Thanks for being here, because this is where I start fighting back, and it's a tough road ahead. I've always been the trusting type, the one who believed marriage was a safe haven. Edward was my rock, and Michael, our son, was our shared joy, but the sabotaged heater, Edward's secrecy, and those texts shattered that trust, forcing me to face a painful truth. I needed someone to confide in, someone who'd cut through my fears with honesty. That's when I turned to Linda, my best friend of 20 years. Linda, 60, is a retired journalist with a knack for spotting lies and a long-standing suspicion of Edward's recent charm. She was the ally I needed to navigate this storm. I met Linda at her cozy home, a warm refuge filled with books and the scent of brewing coffee. Over steaming mugs, I poured out everything the repairman's report, the cut wires in the heater, Edward's texts with Nancy, my near-freezing night. My voice trembled as I showed her screenshots, each word a stab at my heart. Linda listened, her eyes narrowing. And when I finished, she set down her cup. Helen, this isn't just cheating. He tried to harm you. Maybe worse. You need to find out what he's planning and protect Michael. Her words were a wake-up call, turning my dread into resolve. I wasn't just a wife, I was a fighter, and I had to act. Linda didn't let me linger in shock. You're a bank teller, Helen. You spot discrepancies. So spot this one, she said. She was right. If Edward was hiding something, I'd uncover it, no matter how painful. I started small, keeping the repairman's report in a locked box for safety. It was evidence, and I wasn't letting it go. I also checked Edward's phone again during a family dinner, when he left it on the counter, my heart pounding with guilt. The texts with Nancy were bolder, mentioning meetings at a cafe called the Frosted Mug, a trendy spot downtown. I noted the time and place, feeling like a stranger in my own marriage. The next afternoon, Linda and I drove to the Frosted Mug, parking across the street in her old SUV. The cafe was quaint, with snow-dusted windows and the hum of conversation. We slipped inside, taking a table in the corner, my nerves on edge. Around noon, Edward walked in, his engineer's confidence intact. Nancy followed, her laugh bright as she joined him at a table. They sat close, their hands brushing, their smiles intimate. My chest tightened, the air sucked out of me. Linda squeezed my hand. You okay? She whispered. I nodded, but I wasn't. This was real, and it hurt. I wanted to confront them, to scream, to demand answers, but Linda kept me grounded. You need proof. Helen, not a fight. She said. She was right. A public scene would let Edward twist the narrative, and I needed something concrete. I pulled out my phone, hands trembling, and snapped a photo. Their faces clear in the cafe's soft light. It was a small win, but it was something, a piece of the puzzle. Driving home, I was silent, the image seared into my mind. What's next? Linda asked. I keep digging, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I wasn't just seeking answers, I was fighting for Michael's future. Back home, I couldn't look at Edward without seeing him with Nancy, their laughter mocking me. He acted normal, fixing a leaky faucet, but every gesture felt like a lie. I started noticing things. I'd overlooked a receipt in his pocket for a bar I'd never visited, a faint perfume on his jacket that wasn't mine. Each clue was a wound, but I pressed on. I checked the garage, finding a tool matching the repairman's description of what cut the heater wires. Hidden in Edward's toolbox. My fear grew, but so did my determination. The sabotaged heater wasn't a one-off, it was part of a plan. And I needed to know its full scope. Linda suggested documenting everything, but I wasn't ready to involve outsiders yet. I hid the tool, photo, and screenshots in my locked box, building a case. I also watched Edward closely, noting his growing carelessness. He'd leave his phone unattended, act nonchalant about the heater, as if he thought I was clueless. The thought of him betraying Michael, risking my life, tore at me. I couldn't tell Michael yet, not without more proof, but I knew I had to protect him. The man I'd loved for decades was a stranger, and I was ready to expose him, no matter the cost. Thank you for sticking with me, everyone. What do you think Helen should do next? Drop a comment below if you're new. Please like and subscribe to join our community. We're diving deeper soon, and it's going to get intense. The photo of Edward and Nancy at the frosted mug was a wound that wouldn't heal. Their intimate smiles a constant reminder of betrayal. That sabotaged heating system, leaving me shivering in my own home, was no accident. It was Edward's doing, tied to his affair. I couldn't let his deception destroy Michael, our son, or the life we'd built. Welcome back. Everyone, I'm Helen Carter, and if you're following my story from Minnesota, you know I'm battling a betrayal that began with a freezing night in 2023. Thanks for being here, because this part gets heavier, and I need you with me. I couldn't shield Michael from the truth any longer. The weight of Edward's actions was crushing, and Michael deserved to know his father was unfaithful and dangerous, but telling him felt like breaking his heart, and I dreaded the fallout. I invited Michael to my house for coffee, my hands trembling as I set out his favorite mug, a gift from his childhood. When he arrived, his warm smile tore at me. How do you tell your son his father's a traitor? But I had to. Michael, we need to talk about Dad, I said, my voice shaking. He's cheating, and he sabotaged our heater to hurt me. Michael's face froze, his eyes wide with disbelief. Mom, that's crazy. Dad would never do that. He shook his head, as if he could erase my words. I showed him the cafe photo, the text screenshots between Edward and Nancy, the repairman's report, and told him about the freezing night I survived only because of the backup heater. His expression shifted to anger, but it was aimed at me. You're wrong. He's stressed, not a criminal. You're trying to ruin us. His voice cracked, and he stormed out, leaving me alone in my kitchen. The silence deafening. Had I lost his trust? Michael's rejection was a gut punch, but it sharpened my resolve. If he needed proof, I'd find it, for his sake and mine. I started treating my home like a puzzle to solve, searching for answers with a bank teller's precision. One evening, while Edward was out, I checked his office, where he kept a locked filing cabinet, using a spare key I'd found. I opened it and discovered bank statements that chilled me. Transfers from our joint savings account to an unfamiliar account. Small sums at first, then larger ones, totaling over $40,000. My hands shook as I photographed each page, each transaction a betrayal of our shared life. I called Linda, my voice unsteady as I shared the discovery. "Helen, this isn't just cheating," she said. "He's stealing from you, maybe planning a new life with Nancy." Her words sent a shiver through me. I searched the cabinet again, finding a life insurance policy I'd never seen, taken out in my name, with a payout of $600,000. Edward and Nancy as beneficiaries. My heart raced as I realized the sabotaged heater wasn't a random act. It was part of a scheme to harm me. Perhaps drive me out, or worse, for profit. The affair was just the surface. They wanted our home, our savings, everything. That revelation broke something in me. But it also ignited a fierce strength. I wasn't just a wife facing betrayal. I was a mother fighting for her son's future. I started keeping a journal, meticulously logging every piece of evidence: the cafe photo, the text screenshots, the bank statements, the insurance policy, the repairman's report. I hid it in a locked box in my pantry, a fortress against Edward's lies. I watched him closely, noting his growing carelessness. He'd leave his tools scattered, act nonchalant about the heater, as if he thought I was oblivious. His audacity fueled my anger, pushing me to act. I contacted the repairman again, requesting a detailed report on the heater damage. He confirmed the sabotage, noting the cuts required specific tools and expertise, matching Edward's skills. The report was a weapon, proof of his intent. Linda urged me to tell Michael again, but I knew he wasn't ready. I needed more, something undeniable, to open his eyes without destroying him. I installed a hidden camera in the garage, where Edward kept his tools, hoping to catch him planning another sabotage. His frequent repairs gave him opportunities, and I was determined to be prepared. Michael's anger weighed heavily on me, but I understood his loyalty to Edward. I'd raised him to trust his father, and he wasn't ready to see him as a villain. I sent him a text, apologizing for our fight and promising I'd only come to him with solid proof. I hoped he'd see the truth before it was too late. For now, I focused on my next steps. I wasn't just gathering evidence. I was building a case to protect Michael and expose Edward and Nancy for their actions. The husband I'd loved for decades had become a stranger, and I was ready to confront him with every ounce of strength I had. Thank you for staying with this story. What do you think about Michael's reaction? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you're new, please like and subscribe to join our community. We've got more to uncover, and it's going to be intense. The bank statements and that life insurance policy were a chilling wake-up call, confirming Edward's betrayal had turned my home into a war zone. His affair with Nancy, the stolen savings, and the sabotaged heating system weren't just personal betrayals. They were a calculated plot to harm me, perhaps drive me out, for their financial gain. I was done being the trusting wife who ignored the warning signs. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Helen Carter, and if you're following my story from Minnesota, you know I'm fighting a battle sparked by a freezing night in 2023. Thanks for being here, because this is where it all comes crashing down, and you won't want to miss this showdown. I spent days after uncovering the insurance policy in a storm of determination. The evidence was irrefutable: the sabotaged heater, the cafe photo, the text screenshots, the bank transfers, the life insurance policy naming Edward and Nancy as beneficiaries. But I refused to let them destroy Michael or our family's foundation. Linda kept urging me to act, suggesting a private investigator to uncover more. But I needed to confront Edward myself. I wanted to see the truth in his eyes, to save Michael from his father's deceit. That's when I crafted a plan, one that would either shatter us or set us free. I decided to host a family dinner, inviting Edward, Michael, and Nancy to lay their lies bare before everyone. I called Michael first, my voice deliberately warm, saying I wanted to mend things after our painful argument. He was skeptical but agreed, hoping for reconciliation. Next, I contacted Edward, framing it as a family night to celebrate Michael's latest architectural project, a fabrication to draw him in. Getting Nancy there was trickier. I posed as a mutual friend from their old workplace, inviting her as a surprise guest to honor Edward's community contributions. She accepted, her voice eager, unaware of the trap. My heart pounded as I planned, knowing this dinner would redefine our family forever. Linda insisted on being there, staying in the kitchen as backup. "You're not facing him alone," she said, and her unwavering loyalty fueled my courage. To prepare, I met Linda at her house, spreading my evidence across her oak dining table like a general preparing for battle. The photo from the frosted mug, the text screenshots, the bank statements showing stolen funds, the insurance policy, the repairman's report confirming the heater sabotage, and footage from my garage camera, which had captured Edward handling the tool used to cut the wires. I organized it with the precision of a seasoned bank teller, each piece a weapon in my arsenal. I also hired a private investigator through Linda's contacts, who confirmed Edward and Nancy's affair with motel receipts, bar tabs, photos of their secret meetings, and even a recorded conversation hinting at their financial plans. The investigator's report added another layer of proof, solidifying my case. This wasn't just about betrayal, it was about stopping a dangerous scheme before it could escalate further. The night of the dinner, my house transformed into a theater, every detail meticulously staged for impact. I set the table with my finest linens, lit candles to cast a deceptive glow, and prepared a feast of roast chicken, mashed potatoes, glazed carrots, and apple crisp, creating an illusion of warmth and unity. Michael arrived first, his smile cautious, but tinged with hope for family peace. Edward came next, his engineer's confidence polished, followed by Nancy, her bold presence jarring in my cozy dining room. We sat, exchanging small talk about Michael's innovative designs, the biting Minnesota snow, and local events, but the air was thick with unspoken tension. I watched Edward's easy grin, Nancy's nervous glances, and Michael's forced cheer, my pulse racing as I waited for the perfect moment to strike. Halfway through, I raised my glass, my voice calm but resolute. "To family and truth," I said, locking eyes with Edward. "Because lies always come to light." The room fell silent, forks pausing in midair. I pulled out the cafe photo, sliding it across the table with steady hands. "Explain this," I said, my voice unwavering. Michael gasped, his hand trembling as he stared at Edward and Nancy. Edward's face drained of color, and Nancy shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting to the door. I pressed on, laying out the bank statements, the insurance policy, and the repairman's report. I played the garage footage, Edward's figure unmistakable as he handled the sabotage tool. Michael's eyes filled with tears, and he turned to Edward, his voice breaking. "Is this true?" Nancy stood, her face flushed with panic. "I'm not part of this," she muttered. Bolting for the door, her heels clicking frantically on the hardwood, Edward lunged, shouting that I'd fabricated everything, his voice thick with desperation. I stood, my voice cold as ice. "You sabotaged our heater, stole our savings, and planned to profit from my suffering to hide your affair." Michael sobbed, covering his face with his hands. And Edward tried to grab the evidence, but I held firm. "I'm done with you," I said. "I'm reporting this to the police, and you'll answer for everything." The room crackled with tension, Edward's panic a stark contrast to my calm. Linda stepped out from the kitchen, her presence a silent warning. I'd turned their plot against them, and they knew it. Michael looked at me, his eyes shattered but awakening, and I knew I'd reached him. even if Edward was too entangled in his lies to see the truth. Thank you for being here for this showdown. What would you have done at that dinner? Drop a comment and let me know. If you're new, please like and subscribe to join our community. The final part is coming, and it's going to be a wild ride. The dining room was a battlefield, the silence deafening as Nancy fled and Michael's sobs filled the air. My evidence, the cafe photo, the bank statements, the garage footage, lay exposed on the table, stripping away Edward's affair and his sabotage of our heating system. I'd turned his lies against him, and he was cornered. Welcome back. Everyone, I'm Helen Carter, and if you followed my story from Minnesota, you've seen me confront a betrayal that shook my family in the winter of 2023. Thanks for being here for the final chapter, because this is where I reclaim my life and protect my son, and it's a victory worth sharing. Edward's panic surged as Nancy's heels echoed out the door. He stood, his face red, pleading with Michael. It's all a lie, he shouted, but Michael's tears silenced him. He turned to me, his voice trembling. Helen, you've got it wrong, he said, but I cut him off. No more lies, I said, my voice steady as steel. Linda stood in the kitchen doorway, her presence a quiet anchor. I told Edward to leave, and he hesitated, his eyes darting, but Michael's broken stare pushed him out. He grabbed his coat, muttering threats, but his defeat was clear. That night, my house felt lighter, like a storm had passed, and I knew I'd taken a crucial step. The next morning, I sat with Michael in my kitchen, the same place where I'd shivered through Edward's sabotage. His eyes were red, but he listened as I explained everything: the sabotaged heater, the repairman's report, the stolen savings, the insurance policy. I'm so sorry. Mom, he whispered, hugging me tightly. We cried, rebuilding our bond, and he vowed to stand by me. I connected him with the lawyer named Karen, a fierce advocate who reviewed my evidence: the cafe photo, the texts, the bank statements, the insurance policy, the repairman's report, the garage footage, the investigator's motel receipts. This is a strong case. Karen said, adultery, fraud, attempted harm. He'll lose everything. I filed for divorce, ensuring Edward couldn't touch our home or savings, our family's legacy. I took the sabotage evidence to the police, my hands steady as I presented the repairman's report, garage footage, and investigators' findings. They opened an investigation, and Edward cracked under questioning, admitting he'd damaged the heater to pressure me, though he denied intent to kill, claiming Nancy pushed him. The police charged him and Nancy with conspiracy to commit aggravated assault, a serious crime, and both were arrested, their reputations shattered in our small town. Nancy, seeing Edward's downfall, fled Minnesota, leaving him alone in his ruin. The stolen savings were recovered, and the insurance policy was voided, dismantling their schemes. Their betrayal had cost them everything, from family to freedom. Michael's pain was my deepest concern. We spent days talking, healing the wounds Edward left. He apologized for doubting me, explaining Edward had manipulated him with talk of securing the family's future. I was blind, he said, his voice steady. We rebuilt our trust, and he became my rock. I decided to sell the house, too haunted by Edward's actions, and move to a smaller home nearby, closer to Michael. Standing on the porch as the for sale sign went up, I felt liberated, ready to shed the past. The divorce settlement and recovered funds gave me a fresh start, a chance to redefine my life. In my new home, I found purpose. Michael introduced me to a community center, and I started a support group for women betrayed by those they loved. Sharing my story, I connected with others who'd faced their own Edwards and Nancys, their resilience mirroring mine. I became a mentor, helping them find their strength, just as Linda had helped me. The group grew, and I felt alive, turning my pain into a beacon of hope. My kitchen, once a battlefield, was again a place of connection, filled with laughter and shared stories, a testament to what we could overcome. Edward's betrayal was a storm that could have broken me, but it forged me stronger. I'm Helen, a woman who faced lies and danger to protect her son. If you're watching and feel trapped by deceit, hear this: you have the power to rise. Trust your instincts, fight for your worth, and never let anyone dim your light. Michael and I did, and we're free. Betrayal cuts deep, but it can also be the spark that rebuilds you, tougher than before. This journey was grueling, but sharing it with you has been a gift. I've learned that family, even when tested, can be mended with truth and love. My new life, filled with Michael's support and the warmth of my support group, is proof that we can rise from the ashes. I hope my story inspires you to face your own battles, to find your own strength, and to never surrender what matters most. You're more resilient than you know, and you're never alone. Thank you for walking this path with me. Share your thoughts in the comments. What did this story stir in you? If you're new, please like and subscribe to join our community. Next week, we're diving into another tale of courage and secrets, so stay tuned. Your support means everything, and I can't wait to share more.